today I'm going to show you how I made a fake hairline on my Wriothesley wig step by step. Before I start going into it, I do want to explain that I brought separate strands of hair instead of cutting out of the wig to get strands. But if you don't have this, you can peel back the first few layers and unpick them from where you want your hairline to be, as you will be covering it. So I'll be using a sacrificial wig to show you how to unpick this hairline. So you'll see where you want your fake hairline to be. There'll be rows of hair slightly attached differently to other hair. And using an unpicker tool, you can see the thread going along. You'll want to gradually unpick this hairline, making sure not to mess up the hair where possible. And gently go along and unpick this. What you'll want to do is you'll want to peel several layers off, and I recommend starting at the end. Then you can easily, as you can see here, I pull it off and unpick it, and it's a lot quicker. This will then give you the same hair colour exactly, and you'll be able to then fix this onto the wig. First, you want to make sure you have access to the section you want to get to, so I tie the hair back. Then the next thing you want to do is get some felt fabric, preferably to the colour of the hairline you're adding. I do have a black wig, although I'm adding a silver hairline, so black kind of worked for me, and it's what I had around the house. You want to try and cut out an edge which has a curve to it. Both sides could have curves, but you'll see when you stick it on, you'll need it to come out further in the middle so you can stick the fake hairline down. Then getting this piece of fabric, I'm going to slip it under the wig and stick it where I want the fake hairline using this tacky glue. I use this glue a lot in this video, and I'll be putting a link in the description, and it dries clear, which is brilliant. Whilst doing this, try to make sure that all other strands are out of the way so you don't get glue all over your wig, as that would be an absolute nightmare. As you can see here, I'm sticking it down. I find it helpful to do on the wig cap because then you can try and make sure it's the correct shape to your head. I'll top up on the glue and just help hold it there while sticking it down. Being very careful, again, not to get glue in the strands, but making sure it looks natural enough that it does stick down. Once it's dried, I've gone off and cut any excess off, so this is usually off the back. You do not need to do this. It doesn't matter if it goes further back than it needs to be, but especially at the front, if it comes out too far, then it would be good to cut it back because you don't want that showing when you put the hairline on. So now it's time to focus on the strands of hair. I will get my strand of hair. If you've unplucked some bits, work from the end that is naturally loose. I will then separate them into multiple different strands because when you attach the hairline, you'll see you'll have to attach it in multiple different segments. Do more than you'll think you'll need because you easily use it up without realising. Depending on the area, the size of the area you want to cover, make sure you do strands of different thicknesses too, because you'll sometimes find that thinner strands are easier to fit on certain areas and will seem more natural, and also make sure they're brushed out and smooth, and that will just help avoid tangulation later on. Then I shall go back to using my trusted friend clear gel tacky glue. And what I'll do is first you want to make sure you have access to the natural you want to get to, so I tie the hair back. You don't want to do the glue too deep or too far down, and make sure that the glue is trying to cover all of the hair. As you can see, I kind of pull it up here. You don't need to put much glue on, as you can see here. I then get a very soft paintbrush and gently try and brush up, not down, the strand so it comes to a point and comes together, still looking a bit natural, topping it up when I need. As you can see here, I use a chopping board with a glass top. This is because I've used paper once before, and I found when I went to peel off the glue, it pulled away the paper with the hair, and it just made it look a bit messy. So I will go and repeat this process for all the strands of hair, trying to make sure I keep them all together where possible. Once you've done one side, you'll then either want to leave it overnight, or if you're using the tacky glue, a hairdryer will work because it is water-based. Hairdryer until it's all dry. So once dry, you want to very carefully and very gently, without trying to tangle the piece of hair, peel it off whatever surface you've used and turn it over. So you'll then repeat the process again on the other side. The reason why you want to repeat it on the other side is so that the surface area of all the hairs are covered, because if you find you only cover a few hairs, then there'll be a lot of loose hairs which could get tangled and pull the whole front fake hairline apart. Whilst turning them over, you have to try and keep them separate, as they can get very tangled and then it can just become a super messy situation. And try, where possible, to keep glue off your hands whilst doing this so you don't put glue on other parts of the wig. Then, as I said, you can see me repeat the process here, just on the other side. Won't take long. Now it's time to stick the fake hairline to where you want it to be, and where you attach the glue is on the back of the hairline and onto that bit of fabric you've added, and it can go a bit onto the hair above. Just make sure that is pulled back, as you can see here. Once you put the glue down, as you can see, I put a pin in just to help hold it in place because it will take a little while for this glue to set. Then, after just waiting a little bit, making sure it's coming off at the angle you want, you can make sure the glue, as you can see here, I'm just touching up the sides, that it is all glued down and firm. Then I'll go around, and sometimes just before adding a bit of hair, you can see here I cut it just to make it into a nicer shape, and I will just layer the hair over and over again, and I will keep repeating this process until I have all the hairlines in place. What I'd advise here is to try and use your bigger strands. I said to cut out or stick different side strands together first, because you help to cover that first layer. Then you might find there are bits where the black fabric is showing, or some of your normal hairline is still showing. You can use the little bits to help cover them up and keep it looking more natural. Whilst you're sticking this down, because a natural hairline stands up usually slightly on its own anyway, you'll want to make sure it's pinned so it sticks upwards. Another way to help forge the strand so it sticks upwards is to use a steamer, which I do believe I use later on, but you don't want to do this while the glue is still wet, as it can make it go a bit tacky. Something else while sticking on this fake hairline I do is that I add some glue just over the top, especially once I've stuck everything down, to help solidify it in place. You might also notice here for Wriothesley's wig, his hairline isn't in the centre of his head, so I've purposely done it on the side, but obviously make sure you know where you're doing it when you do it. You've also got to consider how you want the strands to come off and how they would sit naturally. So as you can see here, it's coming up from the middle and then kind of spreading out, but different hairlines could be different. As you can see, I've left them as really long strands for the moment. I will come to cut it down later, but I'd highly advise that you wait till you've stuck it down and styled part of your wig before you start cutting, because you don't want to cut too short, because then you'll have to redo it all over again. As you can see here, I'm trying to cover up all that black fabric that I stuck down and using that as a good anchor. I then, as you can see, give it a little trim to help just make it a little bit more neater. Then once you've stuck down as much as you want, there may be a little bit of black fabric showing. I know this will be covered in the wig, but I still just cut that off to help make it be that little bit more natural. So I did leave this overnight, and the next day I made sure obviously it wasn't stuck to the wig cap, but it was pretty solid and hard, as you can see here. And because I was planning to crimp the rest of the wig, I went over and crimped certain sections. Now, if you are crimping, you have to remember you can't or won't have crimped the bit that you've stuck down, so you need to try and make it fade into a crimp. So do looser crimps to start with, and then stronger crimps as you go on. Also, apologies, you'll see some other long strands of this wig. I was doing another tutorial on how to add hair strands, which I have already posted. Go and check out my channel for it. Not going to bore you with how I crimp, because I've done that in other videos, so here's the finished crimp result. I do think it helps add thickness to the crimps, and as you can see, naturally it is still standing up before it then droops down. Now is the time I know what the length is. I will cut it, but I'm just cutting it now to manage the extra long length. I cut it longer than I know I'll need it, so you can see by putting the hair above against it, I will cut it longer, and that's just to manage it, brush it out, and I'll do this to every side, then I won't have all these droopy bits of hair around my wig. Then my next job will be to help blend them in, so both hairs kind of coming off at the same angle. So to do this, I'll make sure I've got some of the black hair which is on the wig and mix it with my fake hairline and steam it. This will, as I say, make it weave the fibre so they come off at the same angle so it blends in. Then it's more about fine tuning. So you can see here, I know he has a strand that comes in front of his face here, so I separate that, and I will now gently cut the wig to how I want it. So this is not just cutting in a straight line what I cut before. I'll use thinning scissors, which are my silver ones you'll see on here, and I'll use these sharp scissors just to help cut the edges to make it look more natural. Then into my normal styling mode, I will use Got2b hairspray, which I'll put a link in the description below, and a hairdryer to help fix this strand into place. I'll then continue to cut the rest of the strands into the spike / styles that I want them. Make sure you have a reference image. As you can see on my left, right, here's my Wriothesley reference image that I wanted. So you make sure you can cut it to the amount you want it. Remember, don't overcut, undercut, and then if you need to cut more, you can always cut more later, but you can never add hair, as I've had to learn. You may think for some of your sections the wig is too thick or the hairline is too thick with the amount you've added. So here, as you can see, I've got hair thinning scissors, and I'll go through and I will cut multiple times and brush through whilst cutting, and that will thin the hair. It will also help make a point on any spike you want to make if you want to go down the spike looking route. And then just repeat this until you've got it to the thickness you want. Again, it's not easy to add hair. You'd have to add a whole nother strand. So don't cut more than you need, please. I then just continue to style the front and style the rest of the wig. So you'll see quite a drastic transition between this and what the next strands look like. But there are no techniques that I use differently to what I haven't shown you already. Again, keep looking at your reference image and seeing which strands go over which and how they all integrate. Got2b hairspray will be your big friend in this process, and also you might want to go over your wig, the front hairline, with glue again to make it that extra bit stronger, as you can see I did here. It will come out looking slightly shinier, as you can see, but overall I was really happy with the result of how it came out. So this is my Wriothesley wig overall. I did add grey extensions in, which I have done a video on how I've done that, because I didn't think there was enough grey. But I'm really happy with the result, and if you have any questions, please ask in the comments. And I do these videos currently for free, so give me a like and a thumbs up and a follow if you're interested in seeing any more. And thank you so much for watching!